Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of DeepSeededGeek. My name is Jason, your host with the most, who's going from coast to coast and most the boast of all the roasts and blah 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 blah. I just like to rhyme today apparently, so we're gonna roll with it. So, as always, this is a very long show, as you're very well aware of nowadays. But if there's a section of my show that you want to go see first, be it the gaming news, what I'm playing, or my opinion piece, you can check out the show details down below, the show description. It'll have little timelines that you can click on those, and it'll jump you right to the sections that you want to get to before you watch the rest of this awesome show that is DeepSeededGeek. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it with the gaming news of the week. So one of the first bits of news that came my way was the amazing news that there is going to be a next Mass Effect game. Yes, on November 7th, N7 Day, which I just put two and two together why that was, they started, the boys over at Bioware, they started tweeting little hints, little details, and images, more importantly, of the new Mass Effect game that might be coming out soon. They didn't give a release date or any kind of story details, but they just wanted to give us a little bit of a teaser of what might be to come. I will eat up anything Mass Effect wise, okay? Anything. You give me like the littlest little thing, I'm gonna eat it up and just love every minute of it and beg for more. I cannot wait for a new Mass Effect game. I believe I read in past statements about the game that it could potentially be something that's pre-trilogy like we know it. So it'll be like prequels, like, you know, because that worked so well for Star Wars. But I could see why that would be, because in Mass Effect 3, as many of you know, there were three options that you could do at the end of the game, and that drastically changes the outcome. So for them to try and do something in the Mass Effect universe post Shepard and his squad, that would be so challenging because there are so many ways the universe could end up. I mean, if they did that and they tried to incorporate that somehow, I would give them major props. But I can see the difficulties with that. So doing a prequel kind of thing makes sense. Other than that, I can't wait. Just give me more, give me more, give me more, as Britney Spears once said. Moving right along and getting away from the Spears, there was a really badass trailer that came online not too long ago from Blizzard Entertainment, who are known for their epic trailer montages. This one was to announce a new free-to-play online MOBA, which stands for MOBA, called Heroes of the Storm. Now, what it is was pretty much you have all the characters from the popular Blizzard franchises, be it World of Warcraft, Diablo, Starcraft, and Starcraft 2. Characters all come together, and it's just one great big battle arena. Now, I've never really played a MOBA before. I heard they're all the rage with League of Legends and such games. Like Dota 2 as well, but I've just never dived into one just yet. It sounds a lot like, well, it's a very competitive gaming realm, and I'm not so good with competitive stuff. I kind of suck, but it sounds like it would be a cool thing. Watching the trailer, you can't help but get jazzed for it. The idea is just so, it's not like it hasn't been around for a long time. I mean, you've got Super Smash Brothers, you've got PlayStation All-Stars, you've got the crossover with DC and Mortal Kombat going on, and Street Fighter and Tekken going on, you know, so it's not the most brilliant thing that's ever happened. But if you're a fan of Blizzard and their franchises, this is really something to get jazzed about. So look for that to come down the road, and yeah, should be a good time. But I've saved the best bit of news for last. Oh my god, guys. They have announced that Netflix is going to be doing 4 exclusive Marvel TV shows. All will be 13-episode series, and all will combine into a mini-series. The 4 series in question are Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones. Oh my god! And that this will all become not into a mini-series called Heroes for Hire, which would make a lot of sense, but The Defenders. Okay? This is just such good news, okay? Number one, all those characters are phenomenal. You read any of their appearances throughout the comic books in the last 10 years, it is just all kinds of goodness, okay? Daredevil, we all know kind of from the Ben Affleck thing, but that is a far cry from what Daredevil is all about and what his character has been through. Luke Cage, the most badass superhero in the Marvel Universe, okay? He's not the strongest guy, he's not the most versatile guy, but he has all attitude and he is just amazeballs. Iron Fist is kind of like... He's kind of like Batman, but just strictly ninja kung fu, you know? He's very rich, he's very fluent in martial arts and everything like that, and he's honed his skills to perfection. Yeah, I just can't say enough cool things about him. If you read any of his latest appearances in his solo work, it's like the best of Bruce Lee just come to life in comic book form. And then there's Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones, in my opinion, will be probably the best of the best. Not because she has so much to offer in the way of like superhero antics, it's because of her backstory. And hopefully all these series are going to be origin stuff and then kind of bleed off into like their own super coolness. But Jessica Jones, she is one of the most original characters to come along in the Marvel Universe in the last, I'd say, 20 years, okay? Her backstory is that she once was a superheroine, okay? She had the powers. She was like up for Avenger status. And then she had some very disturbing things happen to her in her superhero career with a particular supervillain. So she left the lifestyle, but still tries to do good, kind of like as a private investigator and just doing odd jobs wherever she can find them, okay? So she's got the superhero powers and everything like that, and she's just foul-mouthed, and she's got so many skeletons in her closet that she's just kind of in a downward spiral kind of thing. And so to see this kind of character try and claw her way up from the depths, it's so amazing. So you put all these four characters together, and they're going to combine into a big miniseries. The potential is so amazing, okay? I would say it is like you see the Marvel Avengers movies where it's bombastic beyond belief. Well, if you did an indie movie version of the Marvel Universe, that's what this would be, okay? The quality and just the breadth of potential that can come from these characters and storylines is just going to be amazing, okay? So I cannot wait. So check it out. If they were really smart, they would get Brian Michael Bendis to be either the lead story mind behind the whole, like the brainchild of the whole thing, or at least a consultant in a very huge capacity. Because he's the guy who's brought Daredevil to like the popularity that he is right now. He's the guy who brought Luke Cage and Iron Fist back into the spotlight. He invented Jessica Jones. So if you don't have this guy at least whispering in your ear as this is being made, you're an idiot, okay? But doesn't matter. There's so much goodness there. I dare them to screw it up, okay? Oh, please don't screw it up because I love them. I love each and every one of these characters. So enough ranting. That's the gaming news of the week. And as a pretty cool segue, going from one superhero stuff to another superhero thing, we're going to talk about what games I've been playing this week. So as I mentioned last episode, I was planning on playing 2 games this week. I only managed to get in 1. Schedules, all that kind of stuff. And this game in particular had me kind of drag it out a little bit. And I'll tell you why. The only game I played this week was Batman Arkham Origins, okay? Now, I was really looking forward to this game. And if you recall, last week I said, if they just did the same thing in Batman Arkham City, but just did more of it, so more of the same, it would be an awesome game. No, it's not. Sorry to be deadpan like that, but I want to keep things positive. How do I do that with Batman Arkham Origins? It's not a horrible game. It's not. There are a lot of good things about it. Some of the moments in the game between characters are great. The story was not horrible. It looks like a Batman game. It plays like a Batman game. That's all well and good. So in that respect, they did justice, But where it goes wrong is almost everything else. Okay, here's where I get nitpicky. So they claim that Gotham City is going to be twice the size of Arkham City. That's all well and good, but they add in little features where you can quick travel, okay? So what you do, you find a little spot, you click on it. No, you don't even have to find it. You just open up your map and you put your cursor over top of where this quick travel location is, and zip, zip, a little cutscene later, you're in a new section. So the fact that you made the city twice as large is now garbage because you don't need to travel the whole city. And if you're not traveling the whole city, you're not experiencing all the little things that would be hidden throughout this city. Which is my next bone to pick. There is nothing in this city that compels you to want to look at everything, okay? Yeah, they have little Riddler things, which they call Enigma things because, oh my god, he doesn't know he's the Riddler yet. But they're little things like, it's put on the map, like, here's where it is, dummy, go find it, you know? And even when you do find ones just randomly and you think, oh, it's a challenge thing, I'll just do what I do here. They're so monotonous, you know, or they're like old traps that you've seen before. You know, it's nothing new. Like the Riddler trophies that went from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City, leaps and bounds. Sometimes they bled over, but there were over 400, and the variety within those was stellar. Not so much with this one. They were pretty lame, okay? Now, whether that be because they're trying to establish that, oh, he's not the Riddler yet, he didn't get all that kind of fancy just off the hop, and they're trying to scale it back because this is like the first meeting kind of thing. I don't care, okay? Get original, all right? Put some effort into this. But it didn't stop there. A lot of the textures and the level design and the background props throughout the whole thing was just slapdash. You know, I mean, I went from being inside the Batcave, which, if you guys ever played Arkham Asylum and you remember that Batcave that was underneath Arkham Asylum, that place looked totally badass. The actual Batcave, apparently, looks decrepit. Okay, it has a broken down Batmobile. The Batmobile hasn't even been invented yet, but he has a bat jet that he flies through, okay? Whatever it's called, Batplane, whatever. Batwing. Anyway, beside the point. It's just desolate and empty. It's like, it doesn't even have the giant penny, you know, like, it was so uninteresting. I thought, okay, I'm going to the Batcave, this is going to be epic, and it just fell flat. Okay, you get to see Alfred for the first time as I spit all the way across. I don't know if you guys caught that, but that was awesome too. You meet Alfred. He is the worst character design in any Arkham game. His mouth hardly syncs up with his dialogue and just looks like a robotic. It's so weird to watch Alfred talk. It's awful. Okay, we're in the end phase of one of the best generations in gaming, and you can't be bothered to sync up lips with the dialogue? That's lazy. Like I said, nitpicking. The combat is identical to Arkham City, which makes me question, if you were going to degrade anything, I would degrade the combat system so that maybe Batman needs to do a few more moves before he actually does this. Maybe he, later down the road, found certain techniques that, you know, less effort, more impact kind of thing. You know what I mean? So, they change certain things, but they keep others the same. And in most parts, you would think, switch those. What else can I say? The bosses, all the villains in this game, aside from the Joker, of course, are like C grade at best. The only one that had potential in my eyes was Deathstroke, who isn't really even a Batman villain. He's a Teen Titans villain. There's some nerdology for you. But the crap thing with Deathstroke is that he's one of the first guys you fight against, and then you don't see him for the rest of the game. So within like the first 2 or 3 hours of the game, you fight Deathstroke, you beat him, and then for the rest of the 15, 16 hours that you're playing the main story, you never encounter him again. That's wasted talent, okay? The other characters that you fight up against, you've seen the boss fights before. You have Bane characters, you have Killer Croc, you have Firefly, which is essentially the same Bane character kind of fight from the Arkham games. And Firefly is essentially Poison Ivy stage, okay? So there's really nothing intriguing that way. The other thing, last nitpick, I swear to God, is Gotham City itself. Yes, I get it. They said it was Christmas and there was a curfew. That's why there's nobody on the streets. But if you called a curfew in New York City, you would still find people driving up, walking everywhere in New York City. Gotham is supposed to be a New York City replica, okay? The fact that the only people on the streets are small gatherings of criminals everywhere, a little unbelievable. Not only that, but the only denizens of this city, which is supposed to be a metropolis, not Metropolis, but Gotham City as a metropolis. Shut up. Anyway, is that, okay, you've got the villains, and other than the villains, there's cops. You go into Gotham City Police Department where, you know, you're supposed to be monitoring calls of violence going on. After you play through a certain level through there and, like, wipe out, like, all the bad guys or corrupt cops or whatever, you go back there and it's empty. It's just empty all the time. What kind of police force is this where they just abandon all their resources just to be out in the streets? That's stupid, okay? Last nitpick, I swear to God. But yeah, I was so puzzled. Like, how can you screw up a Batman game so perfectly? You know? I'm not saying it's complete trash or anything like that. The gameplay is fun, okay? It's still the Batman stuff that you remember. But in context of the story and the timeline, it doesn't make sense. And to call the game Batman Arkham anything, you would expect to see Arkham Asylum in there, possibly, you know? It's referenced at the beginning, and it's referenced through the credits. Other than that, there's nothing about Arkham in there. If anything, this is an Arkham Gotham Origins, or let's be honest, it's an Arkham Joker Origins, okay? Did I say Arkham Joker Origins? It's Batman. I might have to edit this for the first time in a long time so I don't sound stupid. But I always sound stupid. But no, you need to take Arkham out of the title if Arkham isn't even in the game, okay? And yeah, there were so many missed opportunities with this game. If you really wanted to make this an Arkham Origins, you take all the main characters or all the heavy hitters from the Arkham games and say, holy, you want a shitstorm of a day for Batman? Christmas Day, this is the one day that exploded in all these villainous people, okay? This was the hellstorm, the eye of the storm, where this created so many villains, okay? It's in Christmas time, so you got cold outside. Maybe you incorporate Mr. Freeze and see how he became Mr. Freeze, you know? He was the one guy Batman had to turn to in order to combat some sort of freezing thing in the cold or whatever, and accidents happen, boom, he becomes Mr. Freeze. That's his origin. Killer Croc, maybe there was some mutation kind of thing where he was a sewer worker trying to fight off whatever in the sewers, and he got mutated that way. I don't know. Joker, my God, you didn't even have to show Joker until the very end of the game. You didn't even have to make him a villain. You know how you could have done it? You could have made him an enforcer or like a Yutz that the mob kind of takes under their wing, and you play out the origin story of the Red Hood. Okay? They show it in a flashback, but it's the lamest kind of like flashback you could ever do for Joker. There was so many missed opportunities with this game that I cringe, you know? The only hopeful thing is that it wasn't done by Rocksteady. Rocksteady has been given however much money after the success of the two Arkham games to go off and do something new. Whether that is a new Batman thing, whether it's a completely new game, that's the one hope out of this, is that Rocksteady really had nothing to do with this, and they're going to be bringing out the big guns with their next game. So, I'm going to stop griping about that. This was a disappointment for me, but that's a good segue into what I'm going to be talking about in my opinion piece now. So let's take it away to that. So after listening to my Batman rant there with the latest piece of crap game, my topic for today is sequels that have not lived up to their potential. This year especially, we have seen many games in very popular franchises come out that just did not hit the mark, either critically or financially, success sales-wise, or with gamers. It didn't strike a chord. And if you think I'm just blowing smoke for whatever reason, here are a list of games that released sequels in their franchises this year that did not live up to anybody's expectations. First up, God of War Ascension, Gears of War Judgment, Resident Evil 6, Beyond Two Souls, which isn't a franchise, but pedigree, Amnesia, a Machine for Pigs, Call of Duty Ghosts, Batman Arkham Origins, Dead Space 3, Crysis 3, Sim City, Arma 3, The Bureau XCOM Declassified, and in my humble opinion, Grand Theft Auto 5, and almost all DLC for all major franchises. They were all lackluster and sloppy, especially Call of Duty, okay? Now, I'll come back to some of these titles in particular, but okay, there are a few things we need to consider with this, all right? It is the end of a console generation, and so yeah, if they felt compelled to put out something new in that, yeah, maybe not all their resources were tied into just shelling out another game in a franchise series. And yeah, they don't want to show off any kind of new tech or new ideas for the most part in a console generation that's going to be done by next year. You know, you always want to have your games be memorable and just, you know, you want people to play your game for as long as possible, and you milk it for everything it's worth, either through DLC or expansions and all that kind of jazz. But just because you want to keep the franchise alive, is it not in the developer's responsibility to put quality over quantity? What I mean by that is, do you think it's fair that a game, let's take God of War for example, okay? God of War 1, 2, 3, perfect trilogy, okay? Great way to end it. It didn't even need to go anywhere, all right? But then they announced God of War Ascension, okay? And it was slapdash. I mean, none of the graphics looked any better than the other games. In fact, they almost looked worse than God of War 3 graphics. The story, was there a story? I don't know. And the gameplay was just the same old, same old. Even a lot of the textures and the level designs, we've been there before a bunch of different times. There was not a good reason to have this game. Do you know what I mean? God of War 3, yes, it makes sense, okay? You need to finish a trilogy. But if you're going to start something new, you have to bring new things to the table, okay? God of War was done. We were all happy with that, okay? If you're going to start a whole new thing, start a whole new thing, okay? Don't rehash all the other stuff and say, oh, this is a great thing. You know, it's not. And from what I've heard, I haven't played it, but from what I've heard, Gears of War Judgment, exactly the same thing. Almost identical, actually, in all respects. But then there's also sequels such as Resident Evil 6, where it tries to go in a different direction. And you just fail to grasp what your fan base was in the first place. I think I listened to a podcast that talked about this very thing, especially about Resident Evil, where they were saying Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, it was in the heart of its kind of thing. But then what they did was they went back to the Resident Evil remake on the GameCube, and they did that, and they found that it didn't sell as well. It was pretty true to the original, just with Resident Evil 4 kind of graphics. And they thought, oh, well, okay, this didn't pan out well. What do we do? And then they came out with Resident Evil 4. And what they did was spice it up with a little bit more of an action kind of lean. Still keeping the survival horror thing, but a little more action-y. And they thought, that's what we were missing. That's what we got to do. And then you see Resident Evil 5 lean a little bit more towards that. And then Resident Evil 6 is pretty much all that, okay? And as that happened, sales declined from Resident Evil 4. Now, I think they misstepped, and they looked at Resident Evil remake and said, okay, well, the reason why this didn't sell was because we didn't have something new. Well, no, I think the reason why it didn't sell well is because, number one, you're on the GameCube, okay, which wasn't a popular platform to begin with. And number two, it was a remake. People weren't too crazy about remakes right off the hop there, okay? So they didn't really know what to make of it. And they may have thought, it's just a remake of a game I've played before. Why would I pay big bucks for that again? So maybe that was the problem, okay? You should have just jumped to Resident Evil 4 and bang. But if you didn't have Resident Evil the remake, you wouldn't have probably done Resident Evil 4. Anyway, moot point. So you have developers making bad decisions, taking their franchise in totally different ways. You have franchises that are at the end of a life cycle that just don't want to test the waters or don't feel that now is the time to push the new stuff. Then why push it at all? And then you have franchises such as Call of Duty. And I hate to pick on Call of Duty all the time. I know there are a billion people out there that love the game. There are viewers out there that are diehards for Call of Duty. And hey, if that's your bag, tits on you, okay? Which is good. But I feel bad for you guys. Not in a, I'm looking down on you kind of way. No, not at all. If you got a game and you're passionate about it, power to you, nerd on. But I feel bad in the respect that they don't innovate, okay? We're in, how many have there been? 1, 2, 3, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2, 3, World at War, Black Ops 2, and now Call of Duty Ghosts. You've had 10 Call of Duties, okay? Not much has changed since Call of Duty 3 into Modern Warfare 4, okay? Modern Warfare. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. There it is. So we haven't really had a change for the past 6 games, okay? You can quibble back and forth about this has changed and this has changed. Really? No. Nothing has changed, okay? And that's what's sad, okay? Is that these guys found a little niche, okay, which is just the gameplay, and thought everything else can go by the wayside, okay? We can tighten up the graphics here a little bit, do a little bit there, but we don't really need to do much. We can give a few more, kind of map ideas, but nothing will change there, And just year after year after year, that's all you're getting is the same old, same old. So maybe that's why that is not doing so stellar. Sales-wise, it's probably going to do $1 bazillion. Why? Because people want to believe that there's something good around the corner. But there's not, okay? And that's where you're getting crap-ass reviews from users and critics alike. Because they see what's going on, okay? So it's a trifecta of all these people just not giving a damn about the franchises that they're shelling out to their fan base. And that kind of ticks me off. And I don't know if the reason is the console generation or if it's just, we're making enough money, we don't have to put much effort into it, or they've lost touch with their fan base. But I'm really glad that the next gen is coming, if only that we're going to see all these new kind of properties, all these new IPs that are going to be coming out, and potentially the next leap for all these franchises. That's the last little bit of hope that I hold on to. I'm not exactly dying for new God of War. I think the way they ended in God of War 3 was great, and I think it was a testament to that generation. But leave it, okay? I almost want to say the same thing about Uncharted. It's a franchise I love. It's probably a franchise I will buy with every iteration, just like Call of Duty fans, okay? That's my kryptonite. But I wouldn't be disappointed if they said, no, that was that franchise, that was that generation. We've got The Last of Us. That's going to be this generation. I'll be over the moon for that, Gears of War, if they put that to rest, not too sure too many people will be sad about that, okay? There are many franchises that are doing kick-ass, okay? Like Halo 4 has breathed new life with Halo, the Halo franchise there, and that's going to be going on to great things. Star Wars, all those games, they're getting a kick in the pants with all these great developers in EA. What else is there? Destiny is looking like it's going to be a great new IP, so that's fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lack of invention with the franchises that we love right now, and it's kind of depressing. But let's bring it to a close. That's me. That's what's on my brain right now. I'm looking at all these franchises. I'm going, do they need to just go away maybe, you know, or like, why are you wasting so much money on something that clearly you guys don't want to push too hard, you know? But that's me. What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Let's go to grammar school again. What are you thinking? Are you still psyched about all these franchises that are kind of waning off a little bit? Or do you feel that this is going to be a big comeback with the next generation there? Do you think it's maybe the developers? Do you think it's the people that are like the fan base that are like rabid for these things? What do you think is detrimental most to these franchises right now? Let me know in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as I always do. I had somewhere to go with that, but it just kind of left my brain. I had a brain fart on my own show. That's so not cool. Cut. And I'm not even going to correct that big blowout in the last section there. I'm just going to say, you know what? That's what you get when you watch DeepSeededGeek. All right. So that is my show for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Before you go, I want to remind everybody that on November 24th, which is a Sunday at 5 p.m., DeepSeededGeek is going to go live with a Google Hangout, and the discussion topic for that event is going to be next-gen consoles. They will both be out on the market by that time, and we're going to discuss what has happened since their launch dates, what we are expecting, what we love about the systems, what we don't like about the systems, just getting feedback wherever we can. And if you want to be a part of that discussion, if you have pre-ordered or purchased a PS4 or an Xbox One and want to talk about that on the show, by all means, send me a message on YouTube and we will make sure that you are going to be in on the discussion. You can talk about your channel if you have one. You can talk about what you're playing, anything, okay? We'll bring you on the show. We'll have a good old time. And with that, we shall see you next time on DeepSeededGeek. Don't forget to like, favorite, share with your friends and family. Follow me on Twitter at DeepSeededGeek. You can leave me a comment in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe. And we will see you next week on DeepSeededGeek. One last rhyme before I go. Look at that. We'll see you guys later. Bye.